It was 2:07 a.m. when the baby monitor went silent. The house was still, too still. Then came the scratch, then the creak, and finally the low, desperate growl. Their German shepherd stood in the nursery doorway, trembling, eyes locked on the crib. Moments later, he did the unthinkable. He dragged their sleeping baby out into the freezing night. Not once, not twice, but all the way across the lawn. The parents chased after him in panic, shouting, sobbing, until they saw what he had seen. And suddenly, everything they thought they knew about that night shattered. Before we unfold this chilling and miraculous story, if you believe in the incredible instincts of animals, if you've ever felt that a dog can see what we can't, then like this video, subscribe to Chronicles of Wild, and share this with someone who needs a reason to believe. Now, let's go back to the beginning of that night, when everything still felt safe. The Wilsons lived in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood in northern Oregon, the kind of place where front porches still had rocking chairs and neighbors waved when they drove by. Their home, a modest two-story house with white siding and a picket fence, wasn't much by city standards, but to Emily and Ben, it was their dream. Inside, the house glowed with warmth that night. A wood stove flickered in the living room. A baby monitor crackled softly on the nightstand beside Emily's bed. And in the nursery upstairs, 9-month-old Lily slept soundly in her crib, one hand curled around a worn, floppy stuffed elephant. At the foot of her crib, on a thick blue dog bed, lay Ranger, their 6-year-old German shepherd. He was a retired search and rescue dog, trained to sniff out human life in collapsed buildings and under snow. Ben, a volunteer firefighter, had adopted Ranger 2 years earlier after his last handler had moved overseas. Since then, Ranger had been more than just a pet. He was a guardian, a companion, a silent presence in their lives who never seemed to sleep too deeply. That night, Ben had joked that Ranger looked tired. "He's finally slowing down," he'd said, as he passed the dog a bit of chicken from his plate. But Emily had smiled. "No," she whispered, watching Ranger trot upstairs to Lily's room. "He just knows where he's needed most," and she was right. Around 11:40 p.m., the Wilsons had gone to bed. Emily had done her usual rounds, checked the baby monitor, refilled Ranger's water bowl, and peeked in on Lily. The child was breathing gently. Ranger lifted his head from his paws when Emily entered, his eyes following her, but his body still. She bent over the crib, brushed Lily's soft curls aside, and whispered goodnight. Then she left the room, closing the door quietly behind her. At 1:58 a.m., Ranger stirred. His ears twitched first, then his nose wrinkled. He lifted his head, sniffing the air once, then twice. A low, unsettled whine escaped his throat. He stood slowly, quietly, like something had shifted in the world, something only he could sense. He paced toward the window, sniffed the corners. His eyes never left Lily's crib. Then he sat back on his haunches and stared, still, watching, waiting. By 2:05 a.m., the baby monitor in the Wilsons' room clicked softly. Ben, half asleep, stirred. "Did you hear that?" Emily mumbled. Ben yawned. "Probably just Ranger shifting around." But Emily didn't answer. She sat up, reached for the monitor, and squinted at the tiny screen. At first, nothing looked wrong. Then she saw it. Ranger was standing on his hind legs, paws against the crib rail, sniffing and nudging Lily's blanket. Emily frowned. "That's not like him." Before she could say another word, Ranger did something that made her heart stop. He grabbed Lily's sleep sack in his teeth and pulled. Emily screamed. She jumped from the bed, flung the monitor across the covers, and bolted down the hallway. Ben followed, disoriented and alarmed. "Em, what's going on?" But all she could say was, "He's dragging the baby." When they burst into the nursery, the door was already swinging open. Ranger had pulled Lily out of the crib. The baby, still asleep, lay tucked gently in his jaws, the fabric of her sleep sack cradled between his teeth like precious cargo. He turned his head just enough to look at them, then bolted down the stairs. "Ranger!" Ben shouted. "Drop her!" Emily screamed. But the dog didn't stop. He made for the front door, nosed it open, a trick he'd learned years ago in training, and slipped into the dark. Emily stumbled after him barefoot, sobbing, her arms reaching out into the cold night. It was 2:07 a.m. The lawn was soaked with dew. The moon hung heavy above the pine trees. Ranger had cleared the porch. He ran, with Lily dangling from his jaws, down the gravel path toward the edge of the yard. Ben caught up first, but just as he was about to tackle the dog, a deep rumble split the air. The ground vibrated. The house behind them, their safe, beautiful home, lit up with a strange orange glow. Then, boom! The explosion rocked the earth. A fireball burst through the side of the house, sending shards of wood and glass in every direction. The heat was immediate. So was the roar of flame. Emily screamed and fell to her knees. Ben spun around, shielding her with his body, blinking through the smoke and embers now raining from the sky. Ranger stood in the grass, completely still. Lily, shaken but unharmed, was at his feet. They would later learn it was a gas leak, a tiny fault in the line near the kitchen stove. An electrical timer had clicked on a small appliance. A spark. Just one. But it was enough. Enough to destroy their home. Enough to kill. If they had still been inside. And somehow, Ranger had known. Ben dropped to his knees beside the dog. Emily, trembling, pulled Lily into her arms, the baby still crying, finally awake. Ranger licked Emily's hand once, then collapsed in the grass. Not from injury, not from fear, just exhaustion. Like he had done what he came to do. And now, he could rest. The sun hadn't even risen yet, but the Wilsons' front lawn was already a scene from a nightmare. Fire trucks lined the street, their red and white lights flashing silently against the smoky dawn. Neighbors stood in robes and pajamas behind caution tape. Some cried, some just stared. Emily sat in an ambulance with Lily in her arms, wrapped in a foil blanket. Ben stood a few feet away, answering questions from a fire chief, but his eyes kept drifting back to one place. Ranger, lying in the grass, his body still, his eyes closed, his chest rising slowly. A paramedic had checked him briefly, but said they couldn't do much. He's not burned, just exhausted. Could be smoke inhalation, could be stress. Keep him warm and get him seen, the woman had said gently. But I think he saved your lives. Ben had only nodded. He couldn't speak. As the sky turned from grey to soft orange, Lily stirred. She looked up at Emily with wide, watery eyes and smiled. That was the moment Emily broke. She clutched the baby to her chest, sobbing into her hair, whispering over and over, "You're okay, you're okay," because she knew. If not for that dog, they would have all been inside, sleeping, trapped, gone. The fire marshal confirmed it by 9 a.m. The leak had been gradual, undetectable. They said it likely began around 11 p.m., hours before the explosion. But how Ranger had known, no one could explain. That afternoon, after the embers had cooled and investigators wrapped up their reports, the Wilsons were taken to a nearby hotel. The Red Cross helped. So did their neighbors. Word spread quickly, first among friends, then local news. Then, something strange happened. By the next morning, the story had gone viral. Hero dog saves baby from house explosion. German Shepherd's midnight rescue captivates nation. A dog's intuition, or something more? Emily's phone buzzed constantly. Reporters, animal organizations, national outlets, all wanted interviews. But Emily didn't care about any of it. All she wanted was for Ranger to be okay. But he wasn't. He hadn't eaten since the fire, barely moved. He let Emily pet him, but his eyes were distant, glazed, like he was drifting somewhere far away. A local vet finally arrived that evening to check on him. Dr. Candace Monroe, tall, soft-spoken, with the kindest eyes Emily had seen in weeks. She crouched beside Ranger, ran her hands along his chest, listened to his heart, took blood samples, checked his gums. After 10 minutes, she sighed. Then she looked up, and her face was pale. "I don't think this is from the fire," she said. Emily blinked. "What do you mean?" Candace hesitated. Then she showed Emily the inside of Ranger's gums, pale, almost white. "His body is fighting something. Something internal. I think this has been going on for a while." The blood work came back the next morning. It was cancer. An aggressive form of hemangiosarcoma already spread to Ranger's spleen and liver. "He didn't have more than a few weeks left," the vet said gently. "Maybe less. But what's incredible is that even with all that pain, all that fatigue, he still did this." Emily couldn't breathe. Neither could Ben. That night, they lay on the hotel floor with Ranger between them. Lily cooed beside his paws. Emily whispered stories to him about when they brought Lily home for the first time, about his search and rescue missions, about the way he always seemed to know when someone needed love. Ben cried into Ranger's fur. And Ranger? He stayed still, calm, eyes open now, watching Lily, watching them, as if he was memorizing it all, just in case he didn't get another chance. The following day, a box arrived. It was from a retired K-9 trainer in Colorado who had heard about Ranger's story.
Inside was a note. "I trained dogs like Ranger for years. And if he's anything like mine, he's still fighting. Try this." The package contained a specialized nutrient blend, high-calorie, vet-approved paste. The kind often used for working dogs recovering from trauma. Emily smeared a bit on her finger and held it to Ranger's nose. He sniffed. And licked. It wasn't much. But it was a start. Over the next 3 days, Ranger began to eat again. Small amounts at first, then more. He still didn't move much. But when Lily crawled toward him and clumsily bumped her head against his side, he lifted one paw and placed it gently on her back. Like a hug. Ben laughed through tears. By the end of the week, the Wilsons received another surprise. The gas company sent over their lead technician, an older man named Miguel, who wanted to walk them through what had gone wrong. He was respectful. Quiet. He stood near the charred remains of their home with a clipboard in his hands, flipping pages. "I just want you to know," he said, "this could have gone very differently." Ben nodded. "We know. If Ranger hadn't." Miguel looked up. His face was serious. "No. I mean, yes, the gas leak caused the explosion. But there's something else." Emily leaned in. "What do you mean?" Miguel flipped his clipboard around. He pointed to a diagram of the gas line. "You see this valve? It's supposed to be sealed. We think it was tampered with. Looked like someone had loosened it manually. Recently." Ben blinked. "Tampered, by who?" Miguel shrugged. "We don't know. But this wasn't just faulty equipment. There was silence. Then Miguel added, "If I were you, I'd check your security cameras. And maybe call the police." Ben and Emily exchanged a look. Their house had cameras, 2 at the front, 1 in the kitchen. The kitchen camera uploaded to cloud storage. Ben's hands trembled as he pulled out his phone and logged in. And there, at 10:47 p.m. the night of the fire, a figure. A man, hooded, crouched beneath the kitchen window, twisting something behind the stove. It wasn't just a gas leak. It had been sabotage. Arson. An attempt, very likely, on their lives. And Ranger had known. He hadn't just saved them from an explosion. He had sensed something darker. Something evil. Something no human eye had caught. The police got involved. The footage was submitted. They found traces of tampering, fingerprints. An investigation was launched. But to the Wilsons, the answer didn't matter as much anymore. Because their dog, their dying, silent, heroic dog, had protected them not once, but twice. And as the world rallied around them, sending toys for Lily, donations for rebuilding, and love letters for Ranger, Emily sat on the hotel bed one night and whispered, "Why did you do it, boy? How did you know?" Ranger didn't answer. But she imagined that if he could, he'd say, "I was trained to find people. To protect them." But with Lily, it wasn't training. It was love. 2 weeks passed. The charred remains of the Wilsons' home were cleared away. The police investigation continued. Leads emerged, suspects questioned, but the family's focus was elsewhere. On a hotel floor beside a baby girl. And the dog who had given them a second chance at life. Ranger was eating now. Not much, not fast, but enough. The nutrient paste, soft scrambled eggs, little pieces of turkey. Emily cooked it all herself, careful not to upset his stomach. Every meal felt like a victory. Every tail wag, a small miracle. Lily laughed every time Ranger blinked slowly at her, or rested his chin on her tiny leg. They spent hours that way. A baby and a dog. Neither speaking, yet understanding more than words ever could. One evening, Ben walked into the hotel room and froze. The lights were dim. A kid's cartoon played softly on the TV. And on the blanket-covered floor, Ranger lay curled around Lily. Her hand nestled against his neck. His paw resting protectively over her foot. Both asleep. Ben stood silently, watching. And then, quietly, he took a photo. That moment, he knew, would live in his heart forever. The bond between Lily and Ranger wasn't just affection, it was instinct. Raw. Primal. Sacred. Emily couldn't explain it, but Lily seemed calmer around him. Her sleep deeper. Her smiles wider. One night, Lily had a fever. She cried, restless, couldn't sleep. Ben rocked her. Emily walked her in circles. Nothing worked. Until they placed her down next to Ranger. He didn't move. Didn't bark. Just breathed softly. Lily curled up next to him and closed her eyes. Her fever broke hours later. By the end of the 3rd week, Ranger tried to stand. His back legs trembled. His body leaned to one side. He fell twice. But he got up again. Ben watched him with his hands over his mouth, not daring to cheer, as if even a breath might break the moment. Ranger limped forward. 3 steps. Then 4. Then, unbelievably, he walked across the room. Straight to Lily's crib. And sat down. Emily cried harder that night than she had since the fire. Not from grief. But from hope. The media storm grew. By now, thousands had followed the story. Ranger had a hashtag. A fan page. Local news turned into national coverage. Donations poured in, enough for a new home, therapy, even veterinary specialists. An anonymous donor even paid for Ranger's treatment at a canine oncology center 3 hours away. But Emily hesitated. She looked at Ranger, sleeping peacefully with Lily's blanket beneath his head, and said softly, "If he wants to fight, we'll help him. But if he doesn't, we'll just love him." Every second. That weekend, the Wilsons visited the ruins of their old house. It was quiet. Still. Just a plot of scorched earth now. A cracked driveway. Melted remnants of children's toys, a singed mailbox, and a tree Ranger used to nap beneath. Lily reached toward the space where their living room used to be, as if she remembered it. Ben held her tightly. And Ranger. He sat. Still. Silent. Eyes steady. Watching. Almost like he was guarding it one last time. On the drive back to the hotel, Emily sat in the back seat beside Ranger. His head rested on her lap. She stroked his fur and whispered, "We're okay now, Ranger. You did it. You can rest." He looked up at her. One long, slow blink. Then closed his eyes. That night, Ranger didn't eat. Emily wasn't alarmed at first, he had off days. But the next morning, he refused water. His breathing grew shallow. His eyes glazed. Lily toddled toward him with a toy, chirping happily. But Ranger didn't lift his head. Emily felt a cold chill in her spine. She called Ben. They rushed him to the emergency vet. The doctors tried everything. 4 fluids. Oxygen. Pain management. Ranger's heart rate was slow. Irregular. The cancer had reached his lungs. "He's shutting down," the vet said softly. "His body, it's tired." Emily clutched Lily. Ben stood frozen. They had known this moment might come. But it still felt like the world was caving in. They brought Ranger home, or at least, back to the hotel. Wrapped him in warm blankets. Played soft music. Lit a candle. And they laid with him until midnight. Then something unexpected happened. Lily, who had been drowsy all night, suddenly sat up. She looked toward Ranger. And laughed. A big, bright, bubbly laugh that echoed through the quiet room. Emily looked over. Ranger had opened his eyes. And not just opened, he was watching Lily. Head lifted. Then, slowly, he stood. Unsteady. Weak. But standing. And walked, staggered, over to her. And licked her cheek. It was the last time he would ever do it. Ranger made it through the night. He even ate a little the next morning. Enough to make the vet gasp in surprise. They called it a rally, a brief burst of energy dogs sometimes have near the end. But to the Wilsons, it was more. A gift. One more moment for Lily to giggle. One more photo. One more tail wag. And one more look from those deep brown eyes, that said, "I'm not leaving until I'm sure you'll be okay." That evening, Ranger fell asleep. For the last time. Peacefully. Quietly. Between Ben and Emily. With Lily curled beside him. The room was silent. No beeping machines. No rushing doctors. Just a family, broken, but whole in their love, saying goodbye to the soul who had saved them. The next morning, sunlight poured through the hotel window. Lily woke up smiling. And outside, the wind stirred. As if Ranger's spirit was still there, watching. Guarding. Waiting. Ranger was gone. And the silence he left behind was louder than any bark he'd ever made. There was no tail thumping on the floor in the morning. No soft sighs at night. Just absence. Ben buried Ranger beneath a tall oak tree at his brother's ranch just outside the city. He built the cross himself. Sturdy, simple. Just as Ranger had been. They carved into it. Ranger, guardian, hero, family. Emily placed Lily's favorite stuffed elephant next to the grave. The baby, too young to understand death, still whimpered for him for days. She crawled to his dog bed. Looked under tables. Waited by the door. And when she didn't find him, she cried. Emily tried to explain. She held Lily against her chest and whispered, "He's still here, baby. You just can't see him. But you'll feel him when the wind blows, when your heart's really full. That's him." And sometimes, when the breeze moved through the curtains, Lily would look up and smile. But grief wasn't the only thing lingering. The fire investigation had grown intense. Arson was confirmed. And just days after Ranger passed, Ben got a call. "We have a suspect." He was a contractor. Used to work with Ben on electrical installations. Ben had fired him months ago for showing up drunk, stealing equipment, and threatening Emily when she confronted him. The man had a record. Petty theft. Domestic violence. And now, fingerprints were found on a broken valve in the Wilsons' basement. He'd loosened it. Tampered with it. A time bomb waiting to ignite. Ben felt cold all over. He remembered the man's last words when he'd been let go. "You'll regret this." And they would have. If not for Ranger. That silent, gentle soul had woken at the scent of gas. And chosen, somehow, to pull the baby, not out of instinct, not fear, but something deeper. Something more human than most people ever reach. The trial began 6 months later. The man pled guilty. But what shook the courtroom was the footage. Ben had installed a security camera in Lily's room months earlier, a baby monitor with motion sensors. The footage played on a large screen. Smoke. Sparks. And then a German shepherd, limping, coughing, nose low to the ground, dragging a blanket wrapped around a baby toward the back door. The explosion happened 22 seconds after they cleared the doorway. The jury cried. So did the judge. He became a symbol. Of loyalty. Of love. Of sacrifice. News stations aired the video. Millions shared it online. Emily started receiving letters. Hundreds. Some from families thanking Ranger for reminding them that love still exists in the darkest hours. One girl sent her a picture she drew, a dog with angel wings watching over a house. Emily framed it. The family was offered interviews. Sponsorships. Even a book deal. They turned them all down. All except one. Instead of fame, they started the Ranger Foundation, a nonprofit to support retired service dogs, shelter rescues, and therapy dogs for kids with trauma. Ben donated half their insurance payout to build a rehab center for injured working dogs. Emily began speaking at shelters and schools, teaching kids about compassion, bravery, and what it really means to be a hero. Lily would sit beside her on stage, sometimes holding Ranger's old collar. One day, after a school talk, a little boy came up to Emily. He had tears in his eyes and a stutter in his voice. He said, "My dog died last year, but now I know he's still with me. Like your Ranger." Emily knelt, held his hand, and whispered, "They never really leave. Not the ones who love us like that." Time moved forward. The Wilsons moved into a new home, smaller, but filled with light. In the living room, right by the fireplace, sat Ranger's collar. Hung from a wooden plaque. A golden name tag beside it, engraved with the words, "He saved us all." On Lily's 2nd birthday, something happened. Something small. but unforgettable. Emily had set Lily's new toys around the yard. Friends were gathered. There was cake, balloons, music. And then Lily wandered off. Just for a moment. To the big tree near the back fence. Emily turned in time to see her standing there. Not alone. A dog stood beside her. A golden shepherd mix, lean and quiet. Stray tags. Dirty paws. But eyes, oh, the eyes, soft and knowing. He licked Lily's hand gently. Then turned and trotted off into the woods. Gone. Emily called after him. Searched the neighborhood for days. No one had seen a stray matching that description. No shelters had taken one in. No paw prints. No fur. But that day, Lily slept easier. And the house felt full again. Like a whisper was in the air. I'm still here. Grief never fully leaves you. But neither does love. Especially the kind that drags you out of a burning house at 2 a.m. Especially the kind that dies with its head in your lap. After making sure you're safe. Ranger may be gone. But his story? His sacrifice? His soul? It was only the beginning. Years passed. And like all children, Lily grew. The baby who once rode in Ranger's mouth, swaddled in smoke and love, became a quiet, observant child. Not loud. Not wild. But thoughtful. And strangely brave. She never had an imaginary friend like other kids. But she always said her best friend was the dog in the wind. She'd talk to him. Laugh with him. Sometimes, cry with him. And when Emily once asked, "What's his name?" Lily whispered, "He says I already know." Ben got older too. The trauma faded, though it never fully left. He still checked the stove 3 times before bed. Still sniffed the air when walking through the front door. But he smiled more. And every so often, when Lily was asleep, he'd sit by the framed collar on the mantel. Lay a hand on it. And whisper, "You didn't just save her. You saved me too." The Ranger Foundation grew. It placed over 200 therapy dogs in homes with children who had lost parents, seen war, or survived things no child should. Each dog wore a small, bronze tag shaped like a flame, a symbol of resilience. Underneath the flame were the initials. R.W. Ranger Wilson. He had become more than memory. He had become a movement. On Lily's 10th birthday, something remarkable happened. Emily handed her a wrapped box. Inside, nestled in velvet, was Ranger's old tag, the one that hung from his collar that night. Lily held it like a piece of the moon. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just smiled, and whispered, "I missed you." From that moment on, she wore it as a pendant. To school. To bed. To prom, years later. She even tied it around her graduation tassel. By the time Lily turned 22, she had earned her degree in animal behavior, specializing in trauma response therapy animals. She was top of her class. And her thesis? Titled, "When Loyalty Becomes Legacy, the Psychological Impact of Canine Heroes on Child Survivors." Dedicated to one name. Just one. Her graduation speech was short, but unforgettable. She stood in front of a packed auditorium, held up the tag for everyone to see, and said, "This belonged to the dog who saved my life when I was too small to even say thank you. He didn't just drag me out of a house, he dragged my whole family out of grief, fear, and silence. He's why I'm standing here. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes, they have fur. After the ceremony, a quiet older woman approached Emily and Ben. She held out a letter. Trembling hands. Tears in her eyes. I think your dog saved me too. Inside was a story of a woman in an abusive home, who had decided to end her life one cold night, until she stumbled upon Ranger's viral video years earlier. She said it gave her pause. She watched it 17 times in one night. And something changed. If that dog could risk his life for a child he couldn't even speak to, maybe I could live another day. She had. And now she had 3 rescue dogs of her own. Emily cried as she read the letter. Ben put an arm around her. They stood in silence. Because what could you say? What more could Ranger have done? He was gone. And yet, still saving lives. Still walking with the wounded. Still watching over their daughter. Years later, Lily married a man who had grown up in foster care. A kind man. Strong. Gentle with dogs. At the wedding, instead of releasing doves, they released shelter dogs into their guests' arms for adoption. 17 found homes that day. And as the sun set, Lily walked down the aisle wearing her mother's necklace, her father's bracelet, and Ranger's tag woven into her bouquet. They built a home of their own, not far from that tree Ranger was buried under. Every evening, Lily took her daughter, yes, a daughter now, to visit it. They'd sit beneath the oak, place fresh flowers, and talk about the dog who once carried her through fire. Who never gave up. And when her little girl asked, "Mommy, where's Ranger now?" Lily would smile and say, "Right here," and place a hand over her heart. When you love someone that much, they never really leave. So now, when the wind blows through their home, when leaves rustle at night, when a dog barks at nothing and stares at the door, Emily, Ben, and Lily all know. It's not nothing. It's him. Still watching. Still guarding. Still loving. Ranger. The dog who dragged a baby from a house at 2 a.m. and lit a fire of love that never went out. If this story touched your heart, if Ranger's courage made you believe in something bigger, please take a moment. Like this video. Subscribe to Chronicles of Wild for more true stories that honor the bond between animals and us. Share this with someone who still believes in everyday heroes. And remember, sometimes the smallest lives are saved by the quietest hearts. And love? Love always finds a way.